just completed day one in Minneapolis, and my number one takeaway is that there is so much more reason to be hopeful than anyone outside of communities facing these types of occupations even realize yet. Now, I want to give the Twin Cities all the credit in the world for being the type of community who would stand up the way that they have, but I'm honestly coming away from my time here so far realizing that I kind of think that anyone facing this type of occupation, this type of oppression, would probably be doing the same. Now, I do think that Minneapolis and St. Paul are particularly good cities with particularly incredible communities who are particularly effective at this sort of resistance. But even if they weren't, even if they would just put up the token resistance that you would expect in the face of what they have been facing, I think they would still be doing fine. So far, my impression of things on the ground is that what the current regime is trying to do is a terror campaign. And they are specifically doing a campaign of terror because I don't think they have any hope of winning without terrorizing communities into submission. They need to make people so afraid that they don't rise up and do fuck all in order to be able to manage this many people this fucking pissed at them. But here's the thing, if your first strategy is a campaign of terror, it likely means that you do not have the ability to actually manage the situation in any other way. Meaning that because they are leading with terror, we know that all we have to do is call their bluff and they fall apart. There is nothing ultimately that this regime can do to a community like Minneapolis. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not pain. It doesn't mean that there's not suffering. There is clearly trauma that is being thrusted upon this community, and it is disgusting to see. Absolutely no one should have to be living under the conditions that people here are living under. It is absolutely absurd to think that our country has allowed this to happen. The number I've heard on the ground, and you can feel free to fact check this and correct me if I'm off, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 people detained or deported. But here's the thing, a lot of those people are not making up the bulk of resistance in the community. Those people are typically the people who were the most susceptible to being attacked and oppressed in the first place. People whose effective act of resistance is just being alive and existing in a country that is hostile towards them. That demographic of people are not the same demographic of people that I met outside the Whipple building tonight. Which makes sense, right? They're not going to these obvious locations where it is particularly easy for them to be attacked and detained, which is really important when it comes to understanding the situation tactically. They are committing terror. They are hurting people. They are kidnapping people in the night and disappearing them. And they are not doing anything to the actual bulk of the resistance against their occupation. Yes, there is Renee Good. Yes, there is Alex Preddy. Yes, there is all of the people who have been gassed and pepper sprayed and shoved and kicked and what have you. Yes, that is true. But the bulk of people, the majority of people who are showing up and being inconvenient for them, they are still on the streets. They are still active. And nothing that ICE or the government is doing is slowing that down in any way, shape, or form. The terror is not working because the terror is by its nature a bluff. It is trying to get people to comply ahead of time. And if you just don't, you can't actually bring the city to a heel. Now, that is not to paint those 4,000 people as acceptable losses. We are going to get every single one of them back. But it is to say that there are many, many more people who are still safe in their homes because of this action. The resistance is working. It's working here, and it could easily work everywhere. And from what I am seeing, I do believe it will work everywhere. When it shows up in your community, I truly believe the average person is going to rise to the occasion. I think the line that we are afraid doesn't exist does exist. We just haven't quite met it yet. As a country, as an American people, sure, we have a line that is way, way lower than it needs to be for our standard of how we are treated. However, we do have one. The Twin Cities are proving that we have one. And that should be a reason to hope for each and every one of us.